Hello and welcome in Computational Design in Arabic. In this video, I'm going to show you a workflow on how to use the AIman Tools on Grasshopper in order to generate images using ComfyUI. So first of all, I want you to check the runtime, the set.NET runtime. Make sure that you're using NetCore version 8 because that's what the plugin is built on. So this is very important. The second thing to do is just go ahead and download a ComfyUI installation, and that will be from the GitHub repo. And then you have a folder like this after you unzip the main folder that you download. When you double click it, you have this run NVIDIA underscore GPU or any batch file that you can double click in order to run ComfyUI. And in this case, I want you to right click here, click edit in Notepad, and in Notepad here, go ahead and add ComfyUI backslash before main.py because this is how it will look before. And what I want you to do is just add ComfyUI backslash main in order to look for this main.py under the ComfyUI folder, which is actually here. So these are the first two steps to do it. The second thing that you need to do is you need to start running ComfyUI. So head to the tab, check ComfyUI folder, and now you need to pass this folder in the folder input. So I'm going to add a path here and right click, select a directory, and I will choose this folder here. I will choose actually the ComfyUI folder itself. So I will pass this here, and here you have a button for run. So what I'm going to do is I will add a toggle and pass it here and click run. And now let's check the status. And we have could not find run NVIDIA. So maybe we need to, yes, select a directory and head back to this main folder. So this is the folder that we want. Now it's opened ComfyUI, and your ComfyUI is running in background. So uh, don't think about it, just leave it. Now, everything we're going to do is going to do inside Grasshopper. Most probably, the second thing that you want to do is to take a screenshot of your viewport. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the input viewport screenshot component. And in this component, you can either type front, top, right, or perspective. And perspective is the default value. So I will leave it as it is. And I'm going to check the height to be 768, and then I will add a path to save the file. So I'm going to pass this folder here. I will select the directory again, and I will just pass this folder here, and I will give it a name. So I will call it screenshot one, for example, and this will be my file name. Now I will add a button in order to capture, and before capturing, I want to check the results. So I'm going to check the path of the image. I want to check the status or success. So now it's ready to capture. Once I pass this and run, it will say successfully captured, and in my folder I will find this screenshot. Yes, okay, so maybe I need to take my viewport a little to the right, so all I have to do now is just rerun, and it will resave on the previous file because I didn't change this screenshot one name. Now, as I have a file I want to render using AI, I'm going to check directly the ComfyUI executor, but in order to execute, I need a workflow and I need a URL, which is usually the URL that is opened, and it's usually at 8188. So don't um, change that unless you have to, unless your URL is different. Now, as I'm talking, I have ComfyUI opened actually on my Google Chrome, so I will leave that. I don't want this to bother me. all I want to start building now is the workflow. So you have two options here. The first option is to check the workflow selector, and in this you have four preset workflows that you can use. So you have the render, which actually is based on control net. So it takes the image and gets some control net model to pre-process it. And you can choose that control net model, of course, and its strength and everything. So I called it render. We have the IP adapter workflow, the LoRA workflow, and the upscale workflow. And the LoRA workflow actually works with the render workflow, so it doesn't really change a lot. So now that I have this JSON, I can right click and just choose render. And in this case, this will be my workflow, but I need to run this workflow loader and pass this JSON file to it. And in the JSON parameters here, I need to add my own parameters that will run. So I'm going to the model and I will check, sorry, not the model, the workflow, and I will check the workflow parameters. And here I can add everything about the parameters, the positive and negative prompts, the checkpoint, the LoRA strength, if I'm using one, the width and height of the image, the input image, the output path, and everything you need. Also, you can add two control net models in case you want. You can choose the sampler, the schedulers, the CFG step, the steps, and so on. So now I will need to pass those parameters here after updating them, and then just use a button for reload. And in this first one, if you're not going to add your own JSON file, you have to add something like null, for example, and this will make this component run. If you don't want to use any of these preset and you want to use your own preset, you can go ahead to workflow and you can choose something like actually not workflow, but maybe from, let me check. Yes, the workflow selector. No, not the selector. Nothing. You can just add something like a path here. So I'm going to add a path. I can just select any workflow that is saved as API workflow, as a JSON file API workflow from inside ComfyUI. So I can just use this. So right click, select your JSON file and pass it to the files here and just remove the workflow selector. You can do this if you build your own workflow. But for ease, for those who didn't work with ComfyUI before, I just create those workflows to select from. And now let's change a bit of these parameters. So I'm going to get here and type something like architecture, building, tower, glass, let's say sunset, HD, 4K, best quality, and so on. Those are proper keywords for an SD 1.5 checkpoint. And for the negative, I'm just going to type something like cartoon. I'll also type something like bad hands. If they show people, I will type something like bad quality, and so on. Now, if you want to add some models, let's go ahead to the model tab and let's check something. We have two options. So we have the model browser option and we have the model scanner. Both can work in a really good way. So the model browser is basically, if you have something like what I have here, I have one folder with all the models that is separate and it is not inside ComfyUI. I can just copy this folder. I can just type it here or either as a path, and I will pass this folder here and it will give me all the models, it will give me all the types and all the path for everything, and I can check from it. And even I can just type here check points. Let's put the C small. and that will result in only the checkpoint files. Okay, and you can just type LoRA, for example, and press OK, and it will give you all the LoRA models if you have any. So it's not LoRA, it's LoRa's. So okay, now it will give you all the LoRa models here. It will show you even the path for them, the status, the relative path, and so on. And to do the same thing here, I can just use the checkpoints folder directly. So I'm going to just tap this checkpoints. I'm going to pass this here, and this will show me the checkpoints that I have. So I'm going here, and I can just show the checkpoints, check which one is the one that I want to use. For me, I'm going to use the architecture wheel mix v11, which is at index 7. So I'm going to type list item, put the checkpoint, and choose index 7, and now I get the architecture wheel mix v1 safe tensor. That will be my checkpoint here. And regarding the width and height, I can just typically take them from this. Yeah, so I have those. I will put the width here, and I will put the height here. And you can change the seed, you can change the steps, the sampler. Just type the name of the sampler that you want here, type the scheduler, and just connect it. You can also choose a control net model, and to show the control net models, let's just copy this folder, and instead of checkpoints, let's type control net. Of course, it depends on what you name your folder, so you just need to check the name of your of the folder control that contains your control net models, and here in my case that's typically its name. So I'm going to pass this here, and I'm going to check for depth, I guess. So I'm going with v11 f1p depth dot pth, so it's number 10. I think I'm going with this, so I will type list item. I will choose the item at index 10, which is the depth map, and I'm going to pass this as a control net model. Now you need the control net preprocessor, and for this I create this tool that will show you all the control net preprocessors that you have, and in this case I'm going with the depth anything preprocessor, and I will pass this here in the preprocessor. Yes. Now I have ready parameters. So if you take a look at this JSON workflow, you will find here all of the nodes, because this even shows you the nodes that you have. And actually, when I created the workflow, they had bad numbering, but anyway, it doesn't matter, because what matters is the class type and its name. So in this case, as we see here, we have like the D noise is 0.8. We have scheduler normal, Euler, CFG7, steps 20. It's okay. Clip text encode. Now we have our positive that we added here, and we have the negative that we added here. Let's check for the checkpoint. Yes, here is our checkpoint. Here is our, let's say, control net loader. Yes, this is the depth file. And regarding the AIO preprocessor, now we see that we use the depth anything that we actually picked here. So whatever you change here, you can find it directly in the JSON file here. And now that's what we're going to give the ComfyUI executor, which is the workflow. Now this component is ready to run. All you have to do is just add something like Ladybug image viewer, pass the image path here, and get a button, and let's run. This might take a second, and you will find that everything is working here in the ComfyUI CMD that is open actually since we clicked run. It will take some time to load the model, because this is the first time to load this model, and then it will start rendering. But anyway, the next times it will be much faster. Actually, you can, until it works, you can check the status here. You can check the ID here. There's no ID yet. You can check the progress. And yes, I think we have an image coming here. Yes. But it looks like it didn't work in our image because we didn't pass the input image. That's why it just created some random render using the text, but we didn't add the input image. So you need to add this path as your input image, or just this. So now if we run this, you will have your image in seconds. Yes, here we go. You can just keep running here, getting more images and so on. And actually, we can zoom a bit here in order to get the better resolution, or not better resolution, but better, let's say, uh, image proportions. And in this case, for me, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get just a normal 768 by 768 image. Let me take a screenshot. Let me check this screenshot here. So this will be my image. I think it's a bit better. Maybe I need to just go back like a bit, something like this. And now I think I'm going to take it one more time and then run to render. Yes. But again, here the width and height both should be the same. So I don't need this 512. Let's try again now. Let's check what's going on. Yes. Of course, if you zoom in a bit and look something like that, something like this, and let's just take another screenshot and then render one more time. It's like a close-up shot. So moving your camera and taking another screenshot, everything will work better. Also, you can just change what we've done here. So instead of working with like the depth anything, we can work with the line art preprocessor. So I will check for the line art preprocessor, and I will check for the line art control net here, and we'll choose it over depth. So line art has the index which is 16, so I'm going to pick 16 here, and that will be my control net model, which is line art, right? Now I'm going to run again, but this time, instead of using depth, it will use the line art and will give me those details of facades and so on. Yeah. So here, as we see, we have this diamond shape of the facade. I think this is better than what we got before. Of course, you can use two control net models, as I said, but this will require a new workflow, because the workflow that uses two control net models in this workflow selector is only the IP adapter. So maybe you need to add to create a file with two control net working on your image, and that will give you the option to use two control net models, one for the line art, for example, and one for the depth, or for Kenny and depth and so on. So right now your question will be, what if I want to get a nice image with high resolution? This looks somehow blurry. The resolution is not the best. Maybe I want to upscale my image. Yes, we did something really cool here with the upscale. So we added an upscaling component that adds upscaling parameters, mainly the upscale model. And in this case, you have two options. So if you go to the workflow selector, you will find two two options actually. One which has the render option and just upscale and render upscale. So basically this render upscale does exactly what this one does, but it returns an upscaled image. Okay, and of course, it has to go the same way that we're going to do now. So if I want to just upscale an image that is already existing, what I can do now is I can just follow this exact same things that I did before. So I'm going to get another workflow loader where I will add the just upscale JSON file. I will also get another workflow parameters component that will provide my parameters, my JSON parameters. But there is this very important thing. Okay, we're not going to pass those parameters. What we're going to do is we're going to pass the parameters here, and we're going to pass like an upscale model. I've loaded here the upscale folder, and I can get at something like list like item 8, the real estrogen X4 upscale. And this is going to work as my upscale model. And now both those parameters with the upscale model will create a param JSON file that I can then pass here in the workflow loader. So now let's take a look at this workflow loader. Let's check the JSON file. And what we have here is we have our upscale model passed here. And it's a very basic one because it only like gets an image, it upscales the image and loads an upscale model loader and then saves the image. And that's what this workflow does basically. And now we have this JSON file that we can just come here and pass it to the workflow and then add a button. And if we want to run, we're gonna run, but in a second, because what we need to do here is we don't need to add any control net preprocessors. We don't need to add any control net because we don't have any here, but our input image in this case will be this image, right? So we need to pass this image to the input image here. And now I think we will be ready to just run our model. But let's take a copy from this one, pass it here to the images, and let's go ahead and run this. And in a second, it will return a really nice image with high quality. As we see here, this is 4x, and if we want to make it a bit lower, maybe we can use the 2x, which in this case will be the upscale model number 7 at index 7. And if we run this, now it will use the upscale model 2. It's a bit lower, and of course we can go with the 8x and so on. But one more time, if you want to work with the whole thing, so what you're going to do is this. So you need to upscale your model, right? So I'm going to leave the upscale model here. I'm going to leave the parameters here, and I'm going to pass those parameters as this JSON parameters, and I will choose here the render upscale option, which will generate this JSON file that has control net used, that will have everything, including an upscale model, which will take our model here. Let's check this. Yes, it took the real estrogen X2. Now, if we just run this, let me but just choose instead of 7, let's just upscale the image by 4. And now if we just go ahead and take another screenshot, something like, let's say this. Let's take the screenshot. Let's run our prompt. And in this case, this will give us one upscaled image with really high resolution. We can always check here what's happening. Yes, so the result of this workflow gives an upscaled model directly. Maybe the placement of this needs to be something like this to get a nicer view. And let me just recapture and let's rerun this. It generated the image right now. What it's going to do is it's going to upscale it in a second and give us this result. So our final JSON file is an IP adapter one. Let's check what this gives us and how to use it. So here is what you're going to do. You're going to choose the IP adapter, and regarding the models, you can choose the IP adapter preset from here. Just choose either light, standard, or plus. And from the workflow, let's choose IP adapter. It will require as well the parameters, so we're going to pass the parameters. But in this case, this workflow has two ControlNet models and two ControlNet preprocessors. So you can just add here two ControlNet. Let's try actually use this. So I will leave those two ControlNet models as they are, and I will add another two ControlNet models. So this will be the ControlNet model 2, and I will choose, for example, depth one more time. So the depth model is at index, yes, 10. So in this case, I'll choose index 10, and for the preprocessor, I will choose depth anything, and this will be my preprocessor. And now I will have parameters including two ControlNet models and two ControlNet preprocessors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add those parameters here. I'm going to add a reference image to this, yes, as this input, and also the preset that I chose from here. So my reference image, let me just try and get some image. So I actually like this photo, so I'm going to use it to give us our render with some style of the same thing. So I'm going to load an image here. So I'm going to pass a file. What I'm going to do actually is just right click the image, copy as path, and paste it here. So I'm going to pass my reference image. Now we have a JSON parameter file. Let's check it here. So if you check this here, you will find actually a reference image. With my reference, we will have the IP adapter preset. You have two ControlNet models and so on. And now we can create this new workflow from this file. So I'm going to actually create this new workflow. I will pass these JSON parameters, and my workflow will be this one, which is the IP adapter one. And let's just pass this here. And now we have this final JSON file. Let's check our nodes and let's check the file. So our nodes include two ControlNet models, right? And includes two load image nodes and so on. So this is one load image node, and we have another load image node up here. So if we check the JSON file, we will find that our first image is the screenshot. Our second image is the image that we added as a reference image to this IP adapter component. Our two ControlNet models surely will be saved somewhere here. Let's check. Um, yeah, here it's the plus. The preset is the plus high strength preset. And now we have the line art preprocessor and the depth preprocessor. We have the models, of course. Let's check them. Yes, we have here the depth, and here is the line art. So everything is looking okay. We chose in here the light, but it didn't actually work. Let me check it in the files. But anyway, what we're going to do now is we're going to execute this new JSON file. So I'm going to pass this workflow here. I'm going to add a run button. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this in order to generate or show the new image. And one last thing is I want to change the prompts actually. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to pass this prompt here, positive prompt. And instead of glass sunset and so on and best quality, I want to add something like sketch. So I guess that will be it. Let me just go ahead and run this workflow. But before that, we need to do to make sure that we, after pasting our file, we have to remove the two double quotations in the image. So now if I go ahead and run and wait for some seconds, now in a second, yes, we can see how this image is generated with the same image style that we've shown. If we want to try another one, we can, for example, go with one like this one also, maybe something like this. So let's just copy this image path. So I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it here, but remember to remove the double quotations. And now let's just run and wait for the result. So whatever image you add, this will give you some similar style to the image that you used. So this is in short our plugin. I hope you enjoy it. If you have any problems, just feel free to send me a message or an email or a WhatsApp, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks a lot.